Hey everybody, happy Thursday. So this week I am continuing my series on non-binary gender inclusion into sports. And this week I'm continuing by referencing something I mentioned a couple of videos ago, and that was the policing that happens in women's sports. This type of policing happens in both sports or in both gender categories when it comes to sports competitions, starting with the fact that whenever you usually register to get into one of these low-level sporting communities, you have to pick a binary gender. And of course this is a major barrier to those that see themselves as non-gender and for those that are trans. So with the men's side, many people who see themselves or don't identify fully with the male gender feel like that they don't live up to the stereotypical masculinity that is involved in most male sports. In the women's side, on the other hand, there is discrimination and scrutiny among those that seem too masculine. And this also majorly affects those of women of color, mostly because there is this stereotype, as I've mentioned, of this white European female, and that many people of color don't fit these physical attributes, and so they can be subjected to questioning their gender. And in higher levels of sports, there are testing for specifically testosterone, which has been seen as this male hormone. However, there isn't been a concrete link between testosterone and athletic performances. But still, both categories undergo this testing, but they undergo it differently. For men, usually whenever they are testing for testosterone, it is to see if they have too much in their system. And the only way around this is if they are, if they report that they are undergoing some sort of therapy that requires taking extra testosterone, in which then they are still allowed to compete. However, when it comes to women's sports, there is a threshold. Right now, the World Anti-Doping Agency has set that to 5 nanomoles per liter. So it really discriminates those that are, non-binary or that identify as female, but they may not be undergoing hormone therapy at the time. And it can even discriminate against those that females that do naturally produce excess testosterone, or again, as I mentioned, those women of color who may not fit that stereotypical mold. They may be subjected to this testing, which can cause a lot of dropout. There have been some ways to kind of remedy this. In the study, which takes place again in Scotland, they mentioned that there have been some mixed gender categories at some of the lower levels, and even I believe at the Olympics this year there's a mixed gender category. It does help with those that are trans or non-binary, but it doesn't really solve the underlying problem, mainly which is that the segregation of gender isn't the best way to separate categories when it comes to athletic performance, and it doesn't state or acknowledge the fact that gender is not a binary construct. So again, I think this is going to be a much shorter video, so I'm going to the reason is because I'm now going to get into the solutions that this study has brought forth. So join me in next week for that, and if you have any questions, feel free to ask. As always, stay happy, stay healthy, and stay hydrated.